So, what I thought I'd do with you, Tony, is to ask you to look back on your PACT teaching event on, I guess it was about the second or third week of the color purple.
Right.
And to ask you a question that was similar to the question that Brent and Carrie asked you.
Yeah.
And that's if you looked back on those 5 days of teaching and you said to yourself what went best in those 5 that I would want to remember and keep with me, as it were, as I moved forward in my teaching. What would those best aspects of your lessons be?
So the best aspects of those lessons, I would say, would be that the lessons themselves were engaging. I tried to incorporate a lot of movement into the activities.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to incorporate, I just basically wanted to reach out to the different learning styles of the students.
Uh-huh.
And that worked well for both second and fourth, which I was really happy and proud about.
Mm-hmm.
And
some examples of that?
Right. Socratic seminar was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
The other one was actually the philosophical chairs later on.
Mm-hmm.
It was a small version, but not a full debate.
Right.
And then we also did the bullseye activity. With the different post-its and having students come around to different classrooms and share their thoughts on 3 different boards. So that incorporated kinesthetics, choice,
Mm-hmm.
and also it made the students thinking literally visible.
Right.
On different boards, and so they were always aware of what's going on in regards to which board do I need to place my thought on, which question should this belong to.
Describe that a little bit more, because of course people looking at the video won't know what the bullseye refers to, and
right,
and exactly what that activity was like in the actual theater of the classroom.
Right. Okay. So the bullseye activity was something I replicated, and it was passed down to me, I guess, by Marty.
Uh-huh.
Or Mr. Brandt.
Right.
And so replicating this activity from my phase 1, it was basically that within the classroom, you make 3 different spaces, preferably with the whiteboards.
Mm-hmm.
And you would have, you would teach students the concepts of speculation, interpretation, and then also explanation.
Mm-hmm.
However you define that for your class.
Right.
So I defined it specifically for my classes for all 3 concepts. And then from there, it's a little bit of a setup. It is a bit of front loading, but it allows for a lot of student work to be visible. So you basically have 3 different whiteboards labeled with speculation, interpretation, or explanation.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, you have students do exactly that.
Mm-hmm.
You have them explore the passage or the excerpt that you want them to examine in detail.
Mm-hmm.
And you want them to basically use those different tools to either speculate, interpret, or explain.
Mm-hmm.
And those can come in the form of statements or in the form of questions.
Right.
So as an example, let's say that you have one board that's dedicated to explanation only.
Right.
You would have students that might just ask for clarification questions in
Uh-huh.
regards to, this seems really important, but I don't know what this actually means.
Uh-huh.
So
Right.
that can be a question that they can put towards or put on the whiteboard there.
Right.
Another example would be for the speculation board. They would, some of the students actually caught on to a little bit of foreshadowing in the passage I wanted them to examine.
Mm-hmm.
And so using that little bit of foreshadowing, they speculated that things would actually get worse for one of the characters.
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of thinking is, not only is it enjoyable for us as instructors, but it also affirms the students' voices.
Right.
Because we're always working with them, especially for this activity. You want to make sure that you're working with them and to see where their thinking is going.
Mm-hmm.
The other layer to this piece with the explanation, interpretation, and speculation whiteboards are that on the whiteboards, you would actually draw a target. You can print them out, or you can have poster paper, however it is you set up your classroom. But for my class, I have luckily have a couple whiteboards, and on each of the whiteboards that have the speculation, interpretation, and explanation, each of the whiteboards will have their own target. And so basically what that allows is that you explain that the target is basically a way of saying the more comfortable you feel about your response, the closer you put it towards the target. So if you feel really, really comfortable with your response and you feel very secure in saying that, yes, I have evidence here, this foreshadowing is evident in the book, and I know this might happen in the book, you're going to put that towards the center for speculation.
Right.
For maybe, let's say, for the interpretation board, let's say that you find evidence within the book that says that this character is very much someone that does not follow gender roles, which is one of the primary motifs of the color purple. Then what you can say is that, oh, since I feel very secure about my response in regards to Tashi, that's her name, Tashi, not following the Liquid Tribe's female gender roles, you're going to have that put towards the center. And so the less secure you feel about your answer, the further back you would pull away from the center of the target.
Nice.
So again, for myself, for this specific instruction, I told them not to put their names on the Post-its.
12th grader Billy Russell. 12th grader Billy Russell, please report to the office.
We are in the school.
Yeah, right. So again, for this, I wanted to make sure that the voices were kept somewhat anonymous, because I know that students, their voices are important. But at the same time, if they aren't exactly sure about what to say about their statement or the question, it wouldn't have to be tied back to them.
Right.
So it's a nice way to make this. It's a nice way to make their private thoughts public in a very constructive way.
10th grader Young Yuan Lian, please report to the attendance office.
And
Young Yuan Lian, please report to the attendance office.
there we go. Now, as you look back at the value of those activities, the fact that you were quite pleased with how they went and how they related to each other, not just the bullseye activity, but the other activity, the Socratic seminar, and you mentioned
Philosophical chairs. Right.
Philosophical chairs, right. How do you see yourself as bringing those very engaging activities forward as you go now that you're just completing Color Purple and preparing, even more importantly, for the Great Gatsby?
Right.
How do you see yourself as doing that?
And so with these different activities, I've already debriefed as well with my other professors and other supervisors, and for myself, I would love to use these activities for really good moments in the book. So really crucial scenes and passages that I want them to examine in detail, and also either in small groups or as a class. Those can be used to examine really big topics in the book, that are tied in with some really important passages.
Nice.
So
those three activities in particular, the Socratic seminar, philosophical chairs, and
the bullseye
activities.
Right. So using those on special occasions and not putting them all in the same week. I realize it's a bit much for the students.
Right. So spreading them out a little bit more.
Right.
What about how do those activities relate to the in-class writing that you're preparing your students to do right now, or do they relate to the? Do they help build up students' repertoire for doing well on the in-class essays?
Yeah, and so I did. So with regards to the bullseye activity and the concept I taught there, I had a quiz towards the end of that PACT week.
I see.
So again, I told them that again it would be more about the application, and I don't want you guys to regurgitate the definitions to me.
Yes.
And so the quiz is my way of examining that. But in regards to the writing for this week and how I prepared that, we always do a lot of in-class writing in regards to the starters, some exit tickets, and then, if I remember correctly, I actually did an annotation and analysis within that same week, which is another tool.
Right. So I guess what we can leave this interview with is the idea that you are recalling some things that work particularly well for your students. I was there for one of those lessons. I think it was the bullseye activity, as I remember my observation. And as you prepare for this equally long unit, but a final culminating unit on the Great Gatsby, you'll be thinking over this coming spring break about how to bring forward those very engaging activities as you do your planning for the To Kill a Mockingbird. I mean, Great Gatsby.
Right. I guess my final.
Too many different students.
I think the best thing for me is that I'm seeing where I can make these connections and how I can make the classroom even more passionate in regards to taking the Great Gatsby and the Color Purple and tying those different motifs together.
Nice.
Because it's really interesting in the transition in that it's literally in the same time period, but very different stories.